I met a guy named Ken at Swingathon who was there to have as much as he could. He says he normally goes to clubs. He's a younger guy, good looking, and certainly a bit of a hound. And his goal was to bang. Like he said it goes to a club on an average Saturday night and has 10 different partners. And he was hoping, he got to Swingathon and had somebody in his first 20 minutes. And I was writing about that. But I realized that the problem and the shortcut that guys need is they're looking to know how to do that. And I brought a couple of people with me, great people, great guys, good looking, nice people, should be getting some. But they're shy or they're awkward or they're, and you may feel like this about you. Even if they were all part of couples. And, I talked about how, they hope that their partners are going to set them up. And I don't think that's fair or reasonable. And what I notice is if you're one of those people that expect your partner to find you partners, then they get resentful. Your partners get resentful. And what has to happen is, the women need to have a great experience. You need to make sure it's so much fun for them and it's so easy. Get rid of the friction. So what do? I think you take a page from the pickup artists and you have something. So met a couple lovely people from here, and he's a magician. Did about 3 or 4 magic tricks, and everybody wanted to see his magic tricks. And then everybody wanted to see his magic tricks. You get my drift. And I think that, the old mystery method was, I don't know if you've heard about it, but it was a guy in the 90s who was doing sort of that original pickup culture. He was tall and wore a top hat. He was originally from Toronto. So the mystery method, his books were selling for like $200 each. And you had to do his course, and there were thousands if you wanted to learn how to, just pick up beautiful women in bars. But what he did is he was a magician, and he'd have magic tricks in his cloak, and he'd be the larger than life guy at a bar. And again, it's about confidence. And I think he had his own levels of anxiety based, if you read the book, and you can read Neil Strauss's The Game if you want to understand about that. But the goal was to just stand out and have a shtick, because, and you don't want to make it cheesy, you want to make it authentic. But what is it? Do you have a joke? Do you have what I've seen is, I was talking to, somebody went to a lifestyle event, and he was a farmer, and he grilled the most amazing it was like filet mignon, and he grilled it to perfection. And he went around the pool, and women were opening up their mouth, and he was dropping the little pieces of filet into their mouths like little birds. And everybody wanted to know about his meat. Just saying. Somebody else was a chocolatier. They made this chocolate body paint, and then everybody wanted to be painted. You get my drift. Somebody else had a brother who owned a winery, and they got a lot of wine. That was, Taste My Brother's Wine. And again, it didn't have to be over the top, but it was stand out. My other story is, I've been talking about the swinger cards, and I talk about it as a dating card, where you should have a card, printed card. You can do it as an electronic card, because I really like the digital cards too. But it's your picture, your first name, an anonymous email, girl beside the rose bush @gmail.com, and 5 words about yourself. And if they can reach you. And he was talking to this guy, at a swingers thing, and talking to her a while. And then, the guy that I brought, because he follows me, brought out his swinger card and handed it to him. And the guy looked at him and says, "I'm a fucking amateur. I don't have a swinging card." And again, it's stand out. And if my people had had more time, and if they'd been a little more confident, I can be their wingman. But that is not my role. I'm there to speak. I got my own stuff going on. And if you have somebody that will help you, that's fantastic. But if you're looking for a shortcut in the lifestyle, and I think that everybody needs the shortcut, the frictionless, how do you get there faster? Find something. Find your stick. What is it going to be? And stand out in a crowd. If you're like, Kenny, who's fearless and will talk to anybody, and his goal was, they call him at Hito, a bed notcher. He wants to live his life, and he told me he would like, 10,000 partners. over his lifetime. And I'm like, fill your boots. So I asked him every morning, say, Kenny, what's your number? So it was a really, it's people are who they are. So find out what your thing is, and whether or not it's dating in just a regular bar, whether or not it's lifestyle, whatever it is, it's find your shortcut. I'm Sue. I host a top 20 global podcast called Turned On with Sue and John. Love if you'd have a listen and figure out what you need. I'm Sue and I got more.